Art quilts started actually in the 70s, sort of during the hippie days when people were going back to making whole wheat bread and tie-dye and all of that. And so that's really where the art quilt movement started. I come to my studio every day and I sit and I just write and think of ideas and just make notes. I have a pile about this big of ideas and sketches that are waiting to be made into quilts. I'm Kim Ritter, and I'm an art quilter. An art quilt is basically a piece of art that's referencing the quilt form. So art is something, a creative visual work that comes from thought and becomes form. And a quilt is something that's 3 layers and is stitched together. So basically an art quilt is a creative visual work that is stitched and layered. I've been an artist my whole life, and I was a collector of traditional quilts. When we moved to London, I took a little class that I thought was just going to be a class to meet friends, and it ended up being a City and Guilds class, which is set up to retain and further the traditional crafts of the UK. After I took that 2-year class, I was pretty much set up and ready to go to be an art quilter. The steps of making an art quilt are, first you have to come up with a design. I get the ideas and I pare down to one idea that seems to be right for the moment that I'm working in. And then I take the drawing and I scan it into my computer. So then finally I print out the quilt. Part of why I do the printing is I don't like piecing. It's a little bit of a cheat, but. So then after you actually have the quilt top, then you have to layer it in 3 layers. You have the top, the batting, which is a thick, soft stuff, and then the backing. And then you've got 3 layers. It's quilted with the thread you wanted and the colors you wanted. Then you take it off the frame and you have to trim it, and then you put on what's called the binding, which is what you see going around the quilt's the little thin edge. And then you're done. Well, cut off all the threads. I think my biggest inspiration for art quilts has been daily life. What I'm really well known for are my quilts that are about women. And so that has been really my focus for most of the time. I also do some things about pets. And recently, I guess all the reading of dragons kind of crept into my head, and I had a whole series of dragon quilts that just showed up from pen and had to go straight to being quilted because I just loved them so much. My dragons don't breathe fire, they eat cherries. In 2008, our house got hit by Hurricane Ike pretty bad. We were living down in Clear Lake, so we moved up here to my studio, and I never did address those in my quilts. 6 years later, here I am, and all these drawings keep coming up with this sort of circular motion. I finally realized those were the hurricane quilts. The quilt with my mother on it is an homage to her. She's the one that taught me how to sew and taught me to be really creative. She taught me how to draw. She taught me how to knit. She taught me how to do all the things that women do to make art. When I'm making my art quilts, I just love the fact that you get zoned in and all the other worries of the world go away when you're working on art. When people come and look at my work, what makes me the happiest is when I hear a little chuckle or see a little smile, and I can see the wheels turning in their head of connecting the title to the piece and kind of seeing what I'm trying to do. So that's really what I want them to take away, is a smile and something else to think about after they're done.